Come, let us sit and try to relate. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come, let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build a nation together. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, Remember, the key to success is working hard. For our country, we must have regard.
Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique together. And in that song, you heard, my brother, my sister, for our country, we must have regard. And that is a very powerful message. There are people right now who are angry with the fact that we are sharing the positive things about Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. We are trying very hard to change the mindset of our people, because that is where the battle lies. And because over so many years, our people have been indoctrinated, inculcated with this whole idea that once it is negative, let's talk about it. Once it is damaging to our country, let's promote it and push it. No, we have to change that mindset. And there are those who belong to the complaining industry. So every morning, every day, they have to complain about something. But there are a lot of good things happening around them. They just cannot see it. And even if they're staring it in the face, they just won't recognize it, because mentally they have been taught you need to identify the negative, the negative, the negative, and scream and bawl about it. But what we are trying to do is to say to you, Grenada belongs to all of us. And we need to dig deep within ourselves and identify that patriotic fervor, that patriotic feel, and it will drive you, it will motivate you to talk good about your country. It will motivate you to do good in your community, in your parish, in your constituency. There are a lot of people right now who are angry with the fact that we have been highlighting the positive things that have been happening in our country. And there are some of them who are bitter, who are angry. They miss the winning train. They were on board, but they were woo to another side, and they were not a part of the winning train that brought the NDC to power. So they're blue, and there are those who were there, assisted the NDC to get into power, and because they didn't get some position or some big work or something of that sort, they decided to become grumpy, angry. They're on podcasts talking all kinds of stuff with the hope of undermining this regime, undermining this government. But it's not working. And there are some of them who believe that their work is, well, work during the campaign or before the election and during the election period can be calculated as more important than others. There are some people like that, and they're out there on podcasts, they're out there on radio, they're out there on TV talking regularly, and they believe that they're a superior supporter and they should receive this work and that work. And they also believe that they have the monopoly on ideas. But what we are saying is bury all of that and let us come together and develop Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique genuinely, sincerely, not 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the shore. No, come in wholeheartedly to build this country. I often see on this program, not everyone who comes on a project site is actually there to see the project to completion. There are people who will come on a project site to sabotage, to undermine, to cause or to create more problems, not to solve problems, to make the thing more complicated. You have people like that, but on the face, right, the cover of that book, you would easily be fooled to believe that they're coming genuinely to develop this country. But I am calling on all patriotic Grenadian, and when I speak about Grenada, I am referring to the state of Grenada, which includes Carriacou and Petit Martinique, to understand where we were. It's important that you understand clearly where we were. Don't forget where we came from, what existed, and where we want to go, or where we are heading as a country. There are a lot of things that we are now enjoying, and it is only because the NDC administration came into power. The most honorable Deacon Mitchell, who is a visionary, who is a people-centered leader with his team of competent men and women, they have brought a number of things to we, the people. And we can quickly forget that 14 months ago, public officers were without pension and gratuity. And under the NNP administration, they were protesting, they were demonstrating, they were pleading with the Keith Mitchell-led administration to pay them their pension and their gratuity. The NNP refused to pay them their pension and their gratuity. I remember being there on the streets, documenting, documenting the protests, the demonstrations, the marching, people with bubuzelas, with shells, with buckets and pans, workers, who serve their country with the highest level of integrity, decency, dignity, patriotism, retired doctors, nurses, teachers, police officers, prison officers, public servants generally, retired without anything. And they pleaded and pleaded and pleaded with the Keith Mitchell-led administration. But the Keith Mitchell-led administration did not pay any heed to that. In fact, they used it as a political ploy, an election gimmick, when they actually brought the unions together just before the election of 2018 and caused them to sign an agreement, a memorandum of understanding, which says that they will be paid their pension and gratuity. And they came from that room with cameras outside, well set, well planned, smiling, thinking that they were dealing with a genuine, bona fide individual who is man enough to stand by his word. That did not happen. It did not happen. So the workers went on the streets and they protested and they protested and they demonstrated. And that was the atmosphere for many, many, many years under the NNP. The NDC during the campaign said, we will pay you your pension and your gratuity, even if we have to take a loan to fulfill that promise. And it was an oath between the most honorable Deacon Mitchell and the Grenadian worker who retired and did not get their pension and gratuity, and who intend to retire one day and looking forward to their pension and their gratuity. The NDC came into power and paid $75.1 million in retroactive pension and gratuity to our Grenadian brothers and sisters. Lest we forget that, because there is this tendency to be caught up in the now that you forget where you came from and the struggles to get to that point. So the NDC paid that pension and gratuity. Some public officers who retired 8 years ago, 9 years, they got $300,000 and $400,000, $200,000. They were smiling. In fact, peace returned in their life. And with peace comes good health and everything else. Lest we forget. Remember, the teachers, they took to the streets for the same pension and gratuity issue. They said, no, you can't tell me before the election of 2018 you made us sign a MOU that you're going to pay the pension, you're going to pay the gratuity, but when you win the election, you reneged on that. You decided you're not going to pay it, and we cannot go on the streets and protest and demonstrate for it. So they decided to protest and demonstrate for that. Well, who tell them to do that? Who tell them to protest and demonstrate? Excuse me. The NNP went into the salaries of the teachers, the NNP administration, the Keith Mitchell-led administration, went into the salaries of the teachers, the hard-working teachers, and docked that salary, took out money from that salary. And they did it around Christmas time because they wanted to hurt, they wanted to hurt. I think I need some water, right? They wanted to hurt the teachers. That is how vindictive and wicked the NNP was. The NDC, when they came into power, the first goodwill gesture, the first olive branch extended to the teachers who decided, well, you take my money, I am not going to do anything extra. I am going according to my contract with you, the employer. No intercall, no parish sports, no school sports, no science fair, no debates, no nothing, no extra classes. It was just a dark day for education in Grenada. When the NDC came into power, the first thing they did was to give back, to refund, to repay that dock salary that the NNP took from the hardworking teachers and public servants. Lest we forget where we came from and where we are now. Because there are people who are quick to forget that. They get caught up with this, euphoric moment, this jubilant period where you're getting everything easy and so many things came your way in the last 14 months that you forget the struggles, you forget where you were. And it's like a relationship. A woman out there, the man beating her left, right, and center. You decided to talk her out of that relationship. She comes now into a relationship with you. You start treating her well, treating her as a woman, or as how a woman's supposed to be treated. You talk her into going back to school. So she went back to TAMCC, she went back to college and so on. She got a degree. You told her to apply for a work. She got a nice, decent work. She then takes a loan. She purchases a car, the house where you all are living. You do some repairs. You upgrade it. No longer peat latrine. No longer a house without a veranda. That kind of stuff. You upgrade that. You do the downstairs. Set up a little business there. So things moving smoothly. The children well taken care of. Going to school, maybe a private school, And then she starts forgetting where she came from and the struggles. And the same individual decided, well, let me tag back, quote unquote, tag back to see if I can get her back. After all the battering and all the abuse and so on, she then starts speaking to that person again and start gradually move into that direction. And then you have to say to her, do you remember where you were and what you've been through to come this far, to reach to this point? And that is the point I am trying to bring across to you. Pension, dock salaries. The NDC, when they came into power, gave grant aid to small businesses, to medium-sized businesses. They could have done what the NNP did with their stimulus package, There were some taxi operators and busmen and so on. They gave them a loan. They have to pay it back. Right? And they choose who they were given a little assistance. Right? Because it was a stimulus package. But the NDC said they came in and they met that money there that the NNP refused to give to the people. Money that was sent to assist our people after COVID to bounce back. The NNP refused to dish out that money. What the NDC did, they gave $30,000, up to $30,000 grant aid, grant. So you don't have to pay it back. And a number of small businesses and startups and so on, medium-sized businesses, so startups, small or micro, small, medium-sized businesses were able to access that $30,000 grant. So they expanded their business, they start up new business, 500 plus recipients, beneficiaries. And I told you about some who shared their testimony of being able to expand, of being able to employ one or two persons because of that injection, that capital injection into their business. Lest we forget where we came from and where we are now and where we intend to go as a country, as a people. The NDC came into power and they did not cut out any of the social safety net programs, They did not. The debushing program, the poor relief assistance program, the housing repair program, the geriatric caregivers program, the different programs get towards helping the poor and the vulnerable. They actually continued with all those programs. Lest we forget that. Look at how they were able to fix many of our roads, and they're doing it differently. Not just the patch. They're doing it differently. Look at the kind of injection in agriculture. I heard farmers, praising the government for the amount of plants and spice trees and so on and so forth given to them at a reduced cost. I heard farmers speaking about the tillers and the different equipment they receive. I heard farmers speak about the benefits from the training and all the different opportunities. The fisher folk, the kind of assistance given to them. Lest we forget where we were as a people, as a country. In education, I think I need some water. In the area of education, we saw what the government did for our people. And even before going to the area of education, look at what they have done for the creatives in this country. Permit me to have some water, folks. Right? Permit me to have some water. That is important at this point. I am coughing profusely. Let me have a little water. So let me just show you what the Kimpton Kiwana Bay resort will look like.
I realize it's a massive opportunity. Grand Anse Beach is one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, and Grand has less than 400 high-quality hotel rooms in the country, and the prices at the higher end, $800 plus a night. So there's definitely room for a larger, more internationally branded hotel. And when I managed to acquire the site that we did for the project, which is without question the best site on Grand Anse, it made sense to develop it. It doesn't take rocket science to be successful in the hotel business. There's three things one needs: high room rates, low labor cost, and good occupancy. And that was how we conceived the project, and it's now very well under construction. When we looked at the project, the project management, my background, having built mining projects in Africa and elsewhere, wasn't. I knew execution wasn't going to be the big issue. Was the vision. So I put together a team of 19 individuals that covered all the disciplines. Some of them live in Grenada, some abroad. Everything from the hotel side, where I've got Robert McClellan, an internationally renowned consultant and expert on the Caribbean, to determine which is the right hotel brand, how big the hotel should be, the ratio of rooms to amenities. That's a real science to make sure it functions in an optimal way. And part of that select process was to choose the right brand. We analyzed all the brands and we settled on Kimpton. Why we like it, it's a very trendy, high-end boutique brand owned by Intercontinental Hotels, who have the big distribution network. IHG Rewards alone has over 100 million members globally, and they had very little presence in the Caribbean, so that would help to drive business into the region. And currently they run the Kimpton Seafire in the Cayman Islands, which is without question one of the most successful hotels in the entire Caribbean. Currently there's 19 approved projects in Grenada, of which only a handful of those are approved to sell at the 220, us being one of them. So of those projects, what really differentiates us, we're the only one currently in real construction. I mean, the buildings, are coming out the ground in a very meaningful pace. And we're the only real estate option. Other companies are selling shares. The difference with real estate, as per the law in Grenada, the Act states that secondary purchases of real estate after 5 years are eligible to purchase and obtain Grenadian citizenship. So I think those are the main differentiators. The location of the project, being on Grand Anse Beach, very close to the airport and accessible, well under construction, and the ability to sell after 5 years, as it is a real estate project, it's not a share scheme.
Right, so that there is what the Kimpton Kiwana Bay resort will look like, right? It's now in the hands of the government and people of Grenada because of the good negotiating skills of our beloved Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Deacon Mitchell. Beautiful. So I was saying to you, lest we forget where we came from, we will forget where we are going. I don't want us to forget where we came from. The creatives were never even thought about by the NNP administration. They never considered those in that sector. They were never, in fact, it was the NDC who really brought this to the fore. Before, if you ask people if they know who are the creatives and who are the people in that sector, they can't tell you. So we saw the NDC came into power. They had Unleash, where all the creatives came together and put a roadmap on the table as to what they want to achieve over a period of time. We saw the government giving 100% concession to the people in that sector, the creatives in that sector. And I know what it costs to bring in some mics, some cameras, some basic equipment. Very expensive. You would pay very little for it overseas. And when it comes into Grenada on the port, they will charge you a pound and a crown. This is no longer happening. So this is a big thing for the people in that industry. But not only that, the government decided to provide scholarships at TAMCC for 100 students, 100 people who are in that sector and who are interested in pursuing studies in that sector to get an associate's degree, scholarship free, government paying for everything. Lest we forget where we were, right? I heard a good friend from Carriacou saying before they didn't have all these flights from Grenada to Carriacou or from Carriacou to St. Vincent, then to Grenada. No. And all these roads that are being built in Carriacou, all the training, all the opportunities given to the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Lest we forget where we were, where we came from, and where we are now, and where we are heading, where we are going. The NDC came into power and they introduced universal education from pre-primary all the way up to secondary. Parents would testify and tell you how much they had to find to pay to send their child to school from pre-primary all the way up. They no longer have to find that kind of money. Then the NDC introduced free tuition. So at TAMCC and NULO, they no longer have to find the $810 or the $750 for that child to go to NULO or to go to TAMCC. The government is paying that cost. But the government is also assisting with uniform and school supplies. Remember only recently, they gave the QR codes to parents so that they can go and get school uniforms and go and get school supplies. The government is also assisting students who are pursuing studies at the University of the West Indies with 100% economic support. 100%. So the full 10,000 Bajan dollars is being paid by the government, and they're still assisting them with tuition support. And if they don't know about the tuition support, the ministry will call them and tell them that they can get assistance with tuition support to attend the university. The government continues to give hundreds of scholarships to SGU and other universities around the world, to our Grenadian brothers and sisters. For the first time, Carriacou can boast of having 15, Carriacou and Petit Martinique, 15 of its citizens or people, because we all are Grenadians, people, young people, studying, getting scholarship from the government of Grenada. So very soon one will become a qualified doctor. Very soon one will become a qualified dentist. Very soon one will become a qualified musician. Very soon one will become a radiographer, right? A radiographer. So a lot is happening for our people. The government introduced Grenadian history in our schools. It was never being taught under the NNP. They never saw Grenadian history as important. But the NDC had the vision to introduce Grenadian history in our schools. And the book that they're using was written by a Grenadian sister, a Grenadian author. It's not coming from outside. This is big. The NDC introduced the technical and vocational training in our schools. So a student who is not in love with the science subjects, the chemistry, the biology, the physics, and so on, they can now pursue masonry to become a mason, or carpentry to become a carpenter, electrical engineering to become an electrician, a joinery. All right. In other words, a lot is happening. They can become a cook. They can become a tailor, a seamstress. They can become something. They can use their hand or hands to do stuff. That is the vision. Lest we forget, the NDC refurbished a number of clinics, expanded a number of schools, and added labs, computer labs, science labs, and so on. Lest we forget that. Only recently, the NDC administration was able to get 8 new doctors to add to the general hospital. Countries around the world, they cannot boast of adding doctors. Doctors are leaving to go to greener pastures. Lest we forget TAMCC, for example. Remember, the teachers and faculty and so on, they were protesting for months under the NNP for their money. The NDC came and paid them all, paid them in full, paid them all, 20 something or so million dollars. I remember interviewing our beloved Prime Minister, the most honorable Deacon Mitchell, and he said that the NDC is not tooting its horn enough. I said, well, explain, expound further. He said, do you know that we paid the TAMCC, teachers and faculty and so on, all their money in record time? Because remember, they got a first tranche, first installment, based on the agreement that they reached. And then they got the balance within a short space of time. Lest we forget where we were. The traffic lights, they're almost ready to be commissioned. Come on. The NDC is not talking. They're getting the job done. Remember, we lost the pounds, millions of pounds grant money that the United Kingdom gave to Grenada. The NNP refused to use that money, and we lost that money. And because of the good negotiating skills of the most honorable Deacon Mitchell and his team, they were able to get back the greater portion of that two-part project, right? Because remember, it was the Western Corridor of Roads, 6 point something million pounds, and the water expansion project, 16 point something million pounds. I think it amounted to about 20 million US, right? That's huge. We were able to get that money back, and we are utilizing it to enhance, to improve our water system. Lest we forget where we were with flights to come to Grenada. It was a headache for a lot of Grenadians. It was tough for our brothers and sisters in the diaspora to come back home or to get out of Grenada. Now it's easy because of the good negotiating skills and intervention of the most honorable Deacon Mitchell and his team. They got added flights to come to Grenada. You can now leave Grenada, go to Barbados in the morning and come back in the night. You can now leave Grenada and go to the United States and so on within no time. JetBlue and morning, evening, just name it. Inter-Caribbean is now hiring Grenadians. So we have a lot to be grateful for and thankful for. And we must, talk about it. Where we were and where we are now and where we intend to go. Look at the amount of public officers who were able to get 13% increase on their salaries without marching in the streets, without demonstrating, protesting. That used to happen under the NNP. Once you have to get increase, there will be massive demonstrations and so on because the NNP don't want to give. That is what they used to do. Our workers, they were able under the NDC to agree to come to that agreement of 13% over a 3-year period. The NNP was upset. They were angry. How they didn't protest? They're sellouts. But they're dealing with a pro-worker government. They're dealing with a government who wants good for workers in the country. And not only the increase they got, but they got fringe benefits with it. All the benefits that they were fighting for years. Police officers, when they signed that agreement, they say, for years they were asking the NNP administration to come to the table, let's discuss fringe benefits. And the NNP didn't want to discuss that, period. Public servants, same thing. So many benefits they got under the NDC administration. This is big. The NDC cares about workers in this country. That is why the NDC is now adjusting the minimum wage of our people, those who work in the Indian store, those who work as cooks and cleaners, security officers, carpenters, masons, laborers, those who work as office attendants and clerks and secretary and so on. The media workers, they too are involved and included, and we can go on and on and on. The NDC is serious about workers adjusting the minimum wage so that they can get better salaries. Lest we forget the amount of millions and millions that the NDC injected into the economy when they came in to cushion the impact of the high cost of living. Grenadians, do not be ungrateful. Do not forget where we came from and where we're heading as a people. Because you can easily forget, you can easily get caught up because everything seemed to be coming so easily. Remember, the NDC said, look, workers will be paid twice per month. The NNP said, no, it's not feasible. It's not going to happen. Right now, the NDC is showing the NNP it's not about talk. It's about action. It's about fixing stuff. It's about finding solutions. It's about getting the job done. They were able to implement the twice monthly payment of salaries. Workers are happy because they no longer have to borrow money to make it to the end of the month. They're getting paid twice, and in some instances, they're getting paid before time. Some of them are on the 13th, they get paid now. Or on the 28th, they get paid. So I am saying, lest we forget where we came from as a people. Come on. The government is consulting with us now, Under the NNP, that was a dream. That was never happening under the NNP. Consultation, when and where, they were not consulting with us. No, they thought they were demigods. They thought they were superhuman. They thought they were indispensable. They had all 15 after all. They thought they were untouchable. They thought they were irreplaceable. They were talking down to us. There was a big wall constructed between the people and those ministers of government. Look now, things are different. The governance structure is different. The approach to governance and how they treat people is just different. Our prime minister went outside in the United States, in Canada, and he will be going to the United Kingdom too, to meet with our Grenadian brothers and sisters, to dine, to listen to them, to engage them, to consult. Because the people in the diaspora, they're important in the developmental process of this country, in transforming this country. We need you. We need you. We need you. Lest we forget where we came from. Every Monday morning, you had a prime minister who used to be making Malay bacchanal with everybody, like a little fouchette, like a little Malay woman going down by the river and wash clothes and beating combos with everybody else. His behavior in the parliament only recently, reminded us of what we had. And every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, some bacchanal. They shot old cock. I call him an old cock. The Morocco bacchanal man. Right? That is what we got. He went overseas and he called the nurses and doctors and so on chicken thieves. He used words to the effect that they were pilfering from the hospital, the stock and so on, storeroom and so on, chicken, and that is how he operated. He would embarrass our Grenadian brothers and sisters. He didn't care. So I am saying, lest we forget where we came from and understand What we are enjoying today is because of the most honorable Deacon Mitchell and his team, the NDC team of men and women, competent men and women. Look at the kind of work that's happening in the different constituencies. They are no longer giving you the material to put under your house. They're building the house for you. They're repairing the house for you. They're doing stuff for you. So I urge my Grenadian brothers and sisters, do not lose sight of that journey where we were and where we are now, and what we did to reach here, what we had to do as a people, as a country, as a government to reach to this point. Don't forget that. Only recently, we got back the lands that were given to a certain individual, a non-Grenadian, 20-something acres to promote Grenada. Only his dog had a scarf with a Grenadian flag on it. We got that back. Even if we had to pay for it, but we got it back in the name of the government and people of Grenada. The Kimtong Kiwana Bay Resort, that thing was staying or sitting on that hill as a white elephant, nothing happening. It was just, staying there with nobody working, no nothing. Our government was able to negotiate to get it back, settle on this so that we can create jobs and opportunity for our people. Do not forget this. Look at the kind of work they're doing with the environment. We must be proud as a people. But folks, I want to thank you very much for being a part of the program today. I want to wish you all the best. I will be back with you on Sunday, God's willing, from 1 to 2. And then, we continue with the journey. We cannot go to sleep because the obstructionist party will seek to misinform, will seek to spread propaganda and saturate the minds of our people with falsehood. We don't want that. So again, I want to thank those who shared the program. I want to thank those who, on radio and so on, tell people about it. It's just what it is and what you're supposed to do. Hence the reason this program is the second biggest program, because my Night 8 program, The Hub, is the biggest program in Grenada. And this morning program, the Dynamic Hour, is the second biggest program in terms of viewership and people who listen and so on to this program. And I thank you for making it what it is. Those who pledge their finances to keep the program going, don't forget to honor that commitment. The number of people who pledge their finances to keep the program going, and you have not honored your commitment as yet, please try to honor that commitment. You know it goes. Peace and love. Bye for now.